So effects on the Fantom. I'm going to cross-reference the, as it relates to the Chronos and the Montage keyboards, to kind of bring this in perspective to see where it kind of falls, because they all have their different schematics and how they like to deal with multi-effects. I'm going to go through a couple sounds here. I'm going to show you how we got to this sound using the effects. Let's see here. Now this is one scene now with 16 sounds in it, like a multi. Okay. D50. Okay, so enough with that. So I'm going to go into Effects Edit, and I'm going to show you the this is kind of the roadmap of the way Roland deals with their effects. Okay, so you got zones. We have 16 zones or 16 parts, and each part has their own multi-effects in there and their own EQ. Okay, with the exception of drums. Drums is a little different. I'll get to that in a minute. And so this first section is kind of like unique to each zone in a scene. Okay, then you kind of go one step down. Okay, and you see the second block. You've got two internal effects processors separate. Okay, and they are shared system-wide. Okay, if you choose to share them across any of the channels. Okay, and then this block here can be ran in parallel or serial. So parallel meaning you can run them as two separate effects blocks and have the capability of running any of your zones through either or, but still those two are shared across the whole system. Then you have this next block, which is your system-wide dedicated chorus and reverb. So again, you're sharing the reverb, you're sharing the chorus. So as you kind of go down from one block to another, you're kind of making these, have to kind of make more compromise. Talk about that in a minute. Then you go to your master effects sections, which is another system-wide effect, which is more dedicated towards your compression and EQ. And then it passes through, if you choose, it's going to pass through your analog filter or out of these mains. Okay, so let's go back to this. I happen to have, I'm going to show you. See, as I change from part to part, you can kind of see where I've chosen to run certain parts through the different structures of the effects. So the sound here, analog atmosphere. What I've done is I've run it through a 2-tap pan delay. Part 2, here's an electric grand. Okay, I ran that through an equalizer. So let's see what that's about here. How powerful can an equalizer be? Let's just mute it. Put it back on. So as you can see, and if I wanted to, I could take a look at this and I see I've got a setting on this particular part at 0 for chorus, for reverb. I could send some reverb through it if I wanted to. Just keep in mind your send levels for these other blocks. You although you can't change the effects individually for each block, you can change the send level at least. Okay, so part 3, synth poly. So again, let's just mute. I'm just going to mute these for now. This is running again through the mains. Here's dry. Here's using the MFX and the chorus and reverb settings that I've had. So there you go. So this is interesting. Swimming EPs. So here's dry. So what I've done is I've actually this has some modulation in the programming of the sound. So it already has a chorusy effect without putting any effect on it, which is very helpful. So I'm going to have this running through parallel, the IFX1, which happens to be a multi-tap delay. So the potential is there. It very flexible. Flexible for what it is. Let's see. So I'll just go through one more sound. 10. So see that? Popped up. This is a regular sound. Okay. Here's a drum sound. And there's your compressor. Okay, so the drum sounds, drums and percussion. For those that aren't familiar with the Integra, it works the same way. You get up to 6 compressors for a drum kit. See? Not bad. That's where this is different than other, like the Chronos or the Montage. They give you 6 compressors that you can utilize for your drum kits. And so that may be a selling point for people that like to do drums or like to tweak sound design with drums. So that's why I'm not going to quite say that the Integra, that the Chronos and the Montage are actually better. They're just all different. Example, the Chronos gives you 14 equivalent of IFXs. So you don't get really the MFXs in that way. They're all IFXs, but they're all multi-timbral. So you can take those 14 and use them any way you want. Up to 14. Really, it actually depends on what effects blocks you're using in it. But that can give you quite a bit of flexibility if you needed to leverage that. The Montage gives you 2 effects blocks for each part, which is very, very powerful. So that's like 32 effects system-wide, but only 2 per channel. Whereas the Fantom, you only get the 1 per channel or per part. But they all have their quirks. Like this Fantom, they'll give you 6 compressors for every drum kit. So you just kind of evaluate how you want to use your effects and how important they are. As you can see, I can still get a multi out of here and everything still sounds really good. Whereas compared to the old, like the Tritons and stuff, the old 5080s, you were very restrictive and you really had to kind of pick and choose what sound running in multi-mode was going to kind of get the juice. These newer workstations kind of eradicate the good old days like that. They're much more flexible. So I hope this overview kind of helps demystify the confusion on effects.